The UX 360 Research Summit Europe 2026 is back for its sixth edition in Berlin on the 23rd and 24th of June. UX 360 Europe is one of the Europe's leading events dedicated to advancing UX research as a strategic and business driving function. The summit brings together global speakers, practical case study, and actionable frameworks focused on the full research journey, from planning and execution to stakeholder alignment and business impact. Attendees can expect sessions on cutting-edge strategy, real-world return on investment, and the evolving role of research in today's organization. I will be there as well. And if you work in UX research, design, or product, this is truly one of the unmissable UXR events in Europe. And as a listener of the UX Research Club podcast, you get 15% off on your ticket with the code UXRC15, UXRC15. All the information will be in the note of this podcast. Hello everybody and welcome. This is Emmanuel and you are listening to the UX Research Club, the podcast dedicated to the field of UX research. Today I'm so excited to have Meltem Naz Kaso, most commonly called Mel, as a guest. Mel is a globally recognized UX career coach with over 10 years of experience supporting professionals across 9 countries. She is known for her direct and empowering style, helping people gain clarity, confidence, and momentum during career pivot, burnout, and major transitions. With a background in clinical psychology, cultural anthropology, and evolutionary biology, she brings a holistic but very practical approach to career growth. Through a platform, careerwithmel.com, she works with UX professionals who are good at what they do, but who feel stuck, undervalued, or unsure of what their next move should be. Her work sits at the intersection of career strategy, identity, and decision-making, especially for high performers whose impact or positioning no longer match their level. Today, I'm delighted to have Mel joining me, where we'll be having a conversation about why strong UX professionals can still feel blocked, why strategic role often seems out of reach, and how to make thoughtful career decisions in a market that isn't particularly easy right now. Hello, Mel. So nice to have you on the UX Research Club today. And it's great for the listener to get to know you a little bit more. So tell us a little bit about the fact that how did you move to UX coaching and why make you do this transition? Because you've been a coach for quite a long time now. So why did you do it and how it came to you?
Yeah, well, thank you for having me. First of all, Emmanuel, I'm a big fan of the podcast. It's amazing. Previous guests have shared great knowledge here. It's going to be in March next month, 2 full years of career with Mel, of me doing as a full-time effort UX career coaching to members of our community. And years before that, even if I had worked at Glovo, Delivery Hero organization, or I was at NTT Data prior to that, I still had as a side hustle coaching. So indeed, coaching, if I really go to the origins, is going to be pretty close to 7 years, I would say. Last two being full-time. The why, it's very personal as well as systems focused. When it was 2020, 2021, you will remember this period where from Singapore to San Francisco, we've experienced a massive scale of layoffs, reorgs. Entire organizations, tech organizations have been making great changes. Of course, product managers were affected, engineers were affected, but in the UX community, there were big problems as to, wow, I'm a great performer. I had even a promotion, but now I'm laid off. Or there's reorg happening. I don't know what tomorrow will bring to me. There was this You remember, right?
Very well.
Exactly. So this was a reckoning moment, I would say, in our field where, wow, the kind of relationship I thought I had with my organization as a full-time employed professional is not what I really think it was. It's changing. Maybe they give me salary until the, period is terminated, but I no longer can necessarily count on this trust-based relationship of, growth, psychological safety, that I know I'll be there. It's me, I trust that sort of thing no longer is the same as prior to this period. So I understood that, wow, when people define their professional legacies, they no longer can rely on like, hey, I'm a Googler, I'm in Meta, or I'm in whatever. It doesn't matter big or small. It used to be the identity of the people. And then it was like a lot of uncertainty. And I strongly believed, as someone that was already teaching, building curriculum, already coaching, that, hey, there is time for right now for people to understand a lot better than they did before, to take this challenging time as an opportunity, Emmanuel, to build their own legacy that is a little bit more independent from wherever they might or might not be working, whether they are freelancer, full-time, part-time, building their own thing, agency, big corp, startup, doesn't matter. Who you are based on the actions you take, the results you gather, the impact you create, what your vision is, what your values are, to build something that is uniquely you. I believe there was a strong need to do that. And this is how I gathered, because it's UX coaching, but I'm not coaching specifically people on like how to have a better research plan or how to move pixels on Figma. It's really about the career as your legacy, as your personal brand, as your performance, your intentions. So it's really holistic, I would say.
But this is very important because we spend so many years in our life working and things are changing. Nothing is static. I think to offer this possibility for UXer to really think about who they are, what they want to achieve in their career. Normally we tend to do that for a personal life, but for a career, it's very important to think about what do you want to do? What do you want to do next? What is going to be your North Star? What do you want to achieve in your professional life? And you may have goals, but things are changing in organization. The market is changing. We'll talk about the market at the moment later on during the podcast. But it's very important to have people to turn to discuss what they want to do, even talking about their brand. We need to have a brand as well, in any organization or externally. If you got your own business, it's very important to think about your personal brand, who you are as well. So to have a coach to help you as well to do that, it's very important. And I've been following you for years, actually. And we've got common friends as well in the industry. So it's very nice to see how you contribute as well to the community.
Thank you. Really, I was just going to say, I appreciate that. Our common connections like Javier, our dear friends, brilliant people I look upon. And you nailed it. Personal brand, some people are like, oh, but I'm not going to build my own thing. I'm not an entrepreneur. Literally, my working definition of personal brand is how people feel, professionally speaking, in a workspace when you enter into a room. Because the room no longer is the same with your entrance. It's better or worse, or people feel in a certain way that they haven't before. New thoughts emerge or not based on this interaction. So being aware of that is key, because if you're not intentional about your career, might, Emmanuel, down the line look like I was 3 years here, 4 years there, 2 years here. I wasn't really intentional, and therefore other people's intentions determined what was going to happen to me. You don't have full control, neither you or me or no one else. But at least if you have the clear intent, the goal and the goal behind the goal, you can be a lot more selective. You can focus on the right opportunities, create space for the right opportunities, those ones to emerge. Because if none of that happens, you're really moving a little bit. It's hard to motivate yourself. So I think there is more to the future of work than just being there.
So why do people come to your coaching session? Because I'm very curious.
Well, I still, and feel free to challenge me on that. I do some group coaching, but most of the people that come to me are doing the one-to-one with me, because some sort of magic happens, Emmanuel, when it's one-to-one that is hard to replicate in a group setup, because we can fully focus on that individual. I know over hundreds of people I've worked with in a coaching relationship, they're all very different, right? So in that sense, I won't just create a standardized answer, but I will say that they come to me. They're seniors, so they've been around, they've tried other things. Some of them had coaching before, some of them have tried other things. Those things didn't really work. They are not satisfied with the results. Maybe they had burnout before. Now they're facing a lot of uncertainty. They don't want to feel burnout again. So there is a clarity seeking, all of them, because if they're 100%, laser focused, crystal clear what they need to do, why and how and so on, maybe this is really not important or urgent. So there's this clarity need, but they also feel that someone that is a strategic thought partner that also boosts with positive energy, this accompanying experience also matters, because they recognize that, hey, it's not about a YouTube tutorial or gaining a new certificate or reading a book. I want this interaction to be very human. Yeah, maybe an AI agent can 24/7 reply to my prompts, but this is not what I need. So it's not like the information alone. A question that I can see on the interface is actually very relationship based, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Someone that challenges you, encourages you, experiments with you, but there is that like human energy level experience.
And also it's nice to have someone to talk to when you have plans or ideas, so they can test their ideas with you. You can have objectivity they may not have. You are neutral and you are here to support them as well. So you show a lot of empathy. I know every time we're having chat together, you've got so much
You're so
empathy, which is
kind, yeah.
very nice when you work in a very busy environment, and to have someone which is there for you or for them, and really to support them in their growth, in their thinking, and how they are going to handle their career.
Like what I want people to know is that there is some value to be gained by having an outsider to the dynamics that you might carry currently wherever you might be working at, because I'm not a colleague that might be also competing for a promotion where there's limited seats. I don't have a hidden agenda. I don't work in your same organization. Everything keeps staying private. So there's something to be said about that insider outsider field where you can really speak and share your real doubts and concerns, because there's not just not going to be a conflict of interest. Whether after gaining more clarity you might want to leave your organization or you may want to pivot. For me, that for your coach there's never going to be a problem. Another thing that I keep getting, since you asked me, Manuel, like why people work with you, a big part is that it's not career coaching broadly. It's UX career coaching, because people say, when I had done coaching sessions before, it was amazing. There were worksheets. It was like an HR professional with credentials and so on, but they really never knew what UX job was really about, how challenging it gets sometimes to manage your stakeholders, how hard it is to have your research insights and recommendations be part of the product roadmap and things like that. Whereas in my case, I'm like, I've been there. I know it. So there's also like extra alignment and coherence and appreciation that takes place when you know that you're getting coaching, but it's actually someone who's also a UXer. So they actually know what you mean, like how those things play out.
Yeah, definitely. Like the fact that actually people see you as well as one of them, you understand the industry. Because I had many coaching sessions and it was not with UXer, it was with business people, and they didn't have the full understanding of the craft and the industry, what we are doing and the evolution of the industry. And I like the fact that you mentioned you bring also neutrality in your approach, because you are not the insider of the organization. So you can have a lot of objectivity. And it's nice for the people who go through coaching to have someone they can talk and can be very honest with you without thinking of the internal politics and what could be
Exactly
happening. So yeah, no, it's very interesting, and I think it's very important to frame that, to have UX coaches. They are very domain specific and they bring another lens to the people, and it's very important for them.
I agree, because if they were maybe, I don't know, accountants, or if they were like business folks, like you're saying, I don't have that domain expertise. I haven't really been in those situations. I'm not here to say that coaching done by professionals without the UX background, because I know that there's folks that call themselves UX career coaches, but they've never worked in UX. They've only hired UXers, but they haven't really worked as a UXer under that umbrella. I'm not here to judge anyone's work as better or worse. I also want to make that very clear, Emmanuel, but it is true that people will come to me. We have that fluidity because we could be talking about a new job opening and whether that's a good fit for them. We can switch to a presentation that they're going to run, and the method needs to be rigorous and we need to show it. We can then switch to something else about a conference that they're going to participate. So there is that ability to, as you say, like this person is also from our domain. There is that shared language, shared awareness of challenges and so on.
Yeah. Thing I wanted to ask you is about, you mentioned in previous conversation of preparing this podcast, it was about high performer. And it's very interesting to understand why those high performers actually come to you and what are the main issues they are discussing with you and they want some support.
Good one. It quite naturally, Emmanuel, brings me our work for over a year with Javier Vargas. We all led UX burnout primary research to understand the reasons of burnout in UX populations, how to prevent them, what insights we generated. One key insight, I think it speaks to the question you're asking here, was about how burnout came from a place of care. In other words, people that really didn't care about the quality of the work, the intended impact and so on, they didn't get burnout. So coming from that angle, I work with high performers because if you don't have that drive, that motivation to go the extra mile, probably coaching might not simply be necessary for you. Imagine it's like physical exercise, There's people that care and have their personal trainer because they don't want to just go there and socialize at the gym. They want to make the right moves the right way for their body, for the goals that they set. Like there is that distinction. Maybe someone that goes there and do whatever they feel like, they'll also be more healthy than otherwise. But the personal trainer really helps you set the focus. So similar to that, high performers come in because they care. Some of them had burnouts before for how much they cared and how hard they push. So this time it's like, hey, I want to reach my goals. I want to make sure that the goals that I set for myself are the right ones, but I want to make sure that I don't self-sacrifice in reaching those goals, because your career, the way that we also have a working definition for in my sessions, Emmanuel, is a very long-term thing. It's not your UX title today. It's not what it might be next year. Maybe in 10 years from now, you don't have a UX title, but you have a career that expands from your UX experience and background. So that's why the high performers come, because they recognize that their energy isn't infinite. They want to get the goals, but they don't want to burn out in the meanwhile because maybe they had or they're concerned they would. So it is that space that we navigate.
What is because I know more about the UX research myself than the UX designer. I don't have the expertise in design. But do you see any differences between the two different profiles?
Right. To be very transparent, like when I look at my Excel sheet of everyone that I've ever worked in this sort of official coaching dynamic with a clear contract and so on, there are profiles that are research, there are profiles that are design, there are profiles that are content, there are profiles that are lead in a way that they do both, or they are directors even, or head off, where they come from research or design, but they have a team that puts together both. So they're all UXers with different scopes. Some of them are being very hybrid, and some of them are either on design and research, or they're designers, but they also do research, across different kinds of organizations, different locations globally, and so on. So there is that variety. I do clearly see the difference. Absolutely. There is difference on an individual level, the goals, the kind of organizing, but also I would say overall, this not being statistically significant, of course, this is about my practice, there seems to be more concern amongst research professionals that the field is shrinking. Designers have more pressure and tension around, okay, I am operating at a head level, but I have still the manager or senior IC title. How can I add more strategy in my day-to-day as well as in the compensation that I get, or I need to really get more technical to have a different level of responsibility because I'm asked to do things that no longer can be uniquely allocated to the developers and things like that. So there is unique tensions because each subfield after the arrival of AI or budget cuts and reorgs and so on are challenged in different ways. It sounds like researchers are more fearful than designers based on my observation of the field being super niche, and therefore they are concerned that, oh wow, like we're a typical organization, the next 5 years might growingly seek a generalist that does research, does design, and does many other things. So indeed, there is those separate conversation takes place around, okay, what your strengths are, where will they be valuable if you're only researcher, what kind of future opportunities there might be for you, and so on.
In terms of research, it really depends on the maturity of the organization, because an organization which is quite mature with research, they won't cut much in terms of the headcount of the researcher because they really see the value and the researchers start to be very strategic. And AI will replace things that actually we start delegating to designer already, like usability testing, unmoderated testing, and the researcher are moving a bit more into strategic, project and helping the business to make better decisions. But I find that probably in a less mature organization, they used to have more generalist, UXer who do design and research. That's where the pure researcher may have some issues. But no, it's interesting. It really depends of the size and the maturity of the organization.
I agree. And definitely, I think, like we said earlier, even before recording, research is a massive asset, no matter where you want to go and what you want to do. So this is something to be proud of. I have clients that shifted to roles that no longer officially even say that they are UX researchers. Maybe they're accessibility officers, but because they went into an organization with all that they know of research is helpful, but they are now shaping the policies with the accessibility in mind. So it can be more strategic. It can be informing policy or different, like depending on the organization roles. But indeed, the concerns are there because, as you said so well, not all organizations are leading with UX maturity. Not all organizations have those resources. Many people I work with are operating in teams where there's maybe like 2 other researchers or 3 other researchers, and they're working with very big product teams with not much designer help. So there is indeed very big contextual differences across those folks.
Do you see with your people going through your coaching session any blockers in their experience? They come to you because they feel stuck.
Well, no person doesn't, like, they don't come to me if they're not stuck. Let's also start from there, because if they're like, life is amazing, my career is blossoming, it's all perfect. And I'm like, that's great. If anything, when those exchanges happen, when I'm in a conference, meetup, whatever, I actually ask them if there's something they've done recently or a while ago that helped them to get this level of satisfaction with the results they're getting, because I explicitly state I'll keep it confidential, but maybe there is some learnings here that I can share with my clients or I can share in my writing. But indeed, about being stuck, people come to me because they feel that they're stuck about something they find important in their careers and it's urgent. Some of it is more like, hey, I'm operating at a high level. I believe my work is strategic, it's relevant, it's impactful, but my function isn't valued. How well I'm compensated financially, the opportunities that I get, how much I can be part of those strategic conversations versus my real competence. So sometimes people come for that gap. That is a big part. The other part is their own recognition of some things that they are internally working on that are not working. Imposter syndrome is a big part of the work that we do. I work with very, talented senior product designers or researchers and whatnot, but like concerned with occupying space, concerned with articulating their needs, concerning with formulating their judgment and sharing it without fear of something wrong happening after that. So some of the things that we work on are internal. Some of it also is being stuck because there needs to be a transition. What used to work maybe a couple years ago no longer works. Maybe it works on paper, but it doesn't satisfy them. So we come in really figuring out what is happening with non-judgmental curiosity here to really figure out like this is where you are and this is what you need. And once we build a little more clarity, figuring out, okay, what can we experiment with to gain more data, to learn, to grow, and to pivot and, start to get opportunities internally in your organization or externally, of course, so that are more aligned with you. Because when I talk about success in this coaching, it's really not like, we fix your CV and portfolio and you apply for the job and you get the job. That to me is very transactional. Sometimes that's what we need. And sometimes that could be part of the conversation, but it's more about that alignment where we are making sure that however we define success is very authentic, very personal and real, and also long lasting.
Okay. Very interesting. You make me think, actually.
Good.
Sometimes I hear a lot with researchers in the industry when I go to meet up that they want to be more strategic. This desire to do strategy and to work on strategic initiative. Yet, I think strategic roles often feel out of their reach. So I'm asking for research, but also for design, Why do you think they have this view? And why is that, really?
Your question is more to do with the gap, people wanting to aspire for more strategic work,
Yes,
but not have it. What's the obstacle around it? So I have a view that I'd be happy to hear your thoughts on that too. And if we don't initially agree, that's great. That makes a better conversation. My view as follows. I get it. Everyone wants the work to be strategic. And to me, the beginnings of strategic work is that it's intentional. It can look like a tactical, let's say, usability study that they're doing, but if you can frame it strategically with intent, where you know where the impact will lie and how it's going to change the decision making and what risks we're going to avoid and potential gains we're going to have, you might not have the most strategic task in the organization like the CEO does, but your approach is so strategic, you recognize the implications, and this is going to be more likely for you down the line to get more and more strategic opportunities with bigger scope. So my take on that is more like, hey, let's also not underestimate the work that doesn't seem so strategic and so exciting and sexy from the beginnings, because being strategic is a capability that you have that you can apply to anything, from the way that you're going to have a coffee conversation with a colleague in the office to the way that you're going to present your report or tackle your OKRs or whatever. So that is a little bit more challenging, because my reasoning behind is as follows. Like, who really is hired for strategy? It's the CEO, right? Like, it's a C-level. So those guys are like day in, day out doing strategy. They're not doing much hands-on work, rather for engineering, product, for marketing, for whatever else. So if you as a UXer position yourself or aspire for something uniquely strategic, you're almost like competing in the organization against the CEO. Guess what? Who's going to win if you position it in this sort of like all or nothing setup? So I'm always inclined to create this balance where you show the quality and velocity of your work in such that it is strategic, independent from the scope. And of course, it's a question of, with your stakeholders gaining trust, deeply recognizing the needs of the organization, what can be done, and with that trust, growing the foundations of the work that is more strategic, because we are taking bigger risks as an organization. More money is going to spend, more engineering time is going to be used for this work. So your work, the nature of it, can also be more strategic. That also happens. But that's a little bit how I tackle to get people excited on the kind of strategic work that is immediately accessible and not putting them at the risk of like, hey, like, I'm here as a strategist. Like, no, the CEO is here for the vision and the strategy. You have your own scope. You can navigate that too. So there's a little bit where I stand on this.
I agree and disagree.
I love it.
I agree because everyone had the power with what they are doing to become strategic. So, and I agree about the intention to actually be strategic in what you are doing. It's having also a vision going with it. And what I find as well, we are here also to support the leadership, the C-level, and to make the right decision. And if you use I can talk only about the researcher, but if you take your session and actually during your session, you identify something and you want to test it because you think could be important, you don't have to ask for the permission to do it. You just take the initiative of doing it. And if you think there is an impact and it's going to be valuable for the strategy of the business or the product, whatever, this is when you bring it on a table. You say, by the way, I got those findings. This is what I identified. It may be an interest for you. And then they will pick it up and take it to the next level. And it's what's happening. And I think in reality, it's not always the researcher or the designer who are going to have the seat at the table to talk about the strategy, because the strategy, actually, it's the C-level and the board level going to make the strategy of the business. But we can contribute to their thinking. And I think it's where we can be very strategic with the intent to contribute to the thinking of a senior leadership.
I love it. I think you nailed it. This is, I have some posts around it. This is exactly, in my own words, the way I framed it, the way I articulated it is exactly what I mean. You don't want an organization that has competing strategies. We are all in silos working against or without each other in building something, because we need to come as a whole. Mm-hmm. At the same time, but you're underlining that in my original message, I couldn't make it so explicit. So I thank you for that, is the proactivity part. So no one is too junior to not to have a voice. It's a question of, I repeat it as a trust, because I think you need to build trust, show competence, show care, show results in the things that might not necessarily be the most strategic, deliver on that. And then I think your stakeholders, this is my experience too, are a little more open to hear from you on the things that they have not asked in the first place, because they then can say, hey, Mel delivered A, B, and C, which was what we really needed from her. And on top of that, she proactively came forward with D, which in fact helps us with the strategic exploration of such and such that we actually need. So let's hear what she has to say. Openness, to win that openness, especially if you're not someone at the board level or C level that is hired for that. I think you need to also do the work at the back end, which might also not be that sexy in the first place. This is a little bit my view.
Yeah. Okay. We talk about it briefly at the beginning of the podcast about the market. We know the market is very different. It's not great at the moment. And it's like we're going back like 10 years behind, and we experienced it before, but the new generation didn't experience that before. Right. So it's very new to them about the market situation. What would you recommend to the listener who feel uncertain about the next move right now, if they want to move, but the market is not, offering a lot of options? So what would you recommend to the listener?
Thank you for asking that. I don't deny it. I have clients at Amazon. I have clients in Barcelona office, elsewhere, where, it's really difficult not feel that tension, like the organization is profitable, they're doing well, but here we go, another layoff, another reorg, all those things are happening. Market is tough. I don't think necessarily we recovered from earlier cycles of layoffs, even if we see every week. Actually, our common friend Javier posts every Friday new job openings. So there is opportunities, there are things over there, but you're right, the market isn't the most great, like it was, some years ago. One thing I will say, and I believe it's gonna situate us as optimist realists. Like, we're optimistic because, like, us, feeling like, oh, this is gonna be bad and whatnot. This is as unrealistic as being naive, right? You can be positive and you can be optimist at the same time. My take is, to anyone that is gonna listen to this month, is no one can take away from you your self-awareness. This is a massive tool. Today, the market isn't doing so well. Tomorrow is going to do better. The next day is going to do worse. But if you know, looking at your trajectory, the areas where you delivered great impact, the skills that you have that people come to you for, your personality, your enthusiasm, your values, the results you gained, once again, the impact that it triggered, no one can take that away from you. And the important question that you can ask yourself, independent from how the market is evolving, is, okay, now, knowing that this is me and not hundreds of others can claim the exact unique angle and, experience and potential opportunity to deliver, what kind of organizations, set up places would be the ones where they would need the kind of contribution I'm willing and able to deliver? a lot of people don't really have that. We are rushing to the market. Like, how is the market doing? How many jobs? Let's apply to 30 jobs a day. But it's really more about self-awareness that no one, once again, can take away from you. It's important to look for the jobs. And, we sometimes get frustrated, like, okay, there's one job opened, it's open for 2 days and hundreds of people applied. But hey, what about the jobs that are not posted? Not all jobs are posted. A lot of opportunities are shared internally or not crafted externally. So once again, having that midterm, long-term view of your career, building relationships, this is not like a fake sales callsy thing, but like, hey, who else is in the field? Who else are in the verticals that are deeply interesting to me? What are they doing? What opportunities are there in the organization? How can I be part of it? It makes sense. So these are the kind of questions that don't seem to be as immediate as applying for a job. But trust me, down the line, it is the kind of thing that also delivers great results because you show clarity. You recognize that humans work with humans. And so in an organization, essentially a collection of people that includes the board, the CEO, and anyone that is getting their hands dirty doing the work. And if you put yourself as someone that is worth the trust and they know the work that you can do, you are building those relationships, I do trust that you're much more likely to attract opportunities with that approach.
I've got children, young adults, and they apply for work. They're not in the UX field, but I always say to them to really focus on what they really want to do and to look at the right organizational fit, the right competencies they are looking for. I think it's very important for people, instead of applying to all the jobs, to really focus their attention on what they really want to do, because they will come across much better than just applying and, batch of CV sent across all the organization. Especially for the new generation, the market was quite easy and they could hop easily before. Yeah. And we are going back to how it used to be. I sound old when I say that, but we used to apply for a job and stay for a while. And before it was not online, we used to go and see the recruiters. It was taking time. We used to travel all the time for all the interviews and things like that. So yeah, we're going back to something a bit more challenging. But, what we had the last few years where so many jobs were available, not enough people to take the job, is very rare. It happened because we went through a massive digital transformation and because we had COVID, so everything moved online. So we had an acceleration of 100%. The needs from the organization. But now we are settling down and a bit more. And we've got AI on top of that who come to bring another layer. So it will be a bit more difficult, but, sometimes it can take 6 months to 9 months to get a job. And it used to be normal,
Yes. I think you nailed it. Having this big picture perspective helps not maybe emotionally make it easier, but normalize that, like, hey, it's okay. It can happen. There were times, indeed, what you're describing with, the COVID phase, everything going digital. People were graduating from boot camps and boom, their first job. Or I remember the time where I was getting every week unsolicited requests to work with me where, it was like, which one do you even choose from? Do you even have time to have that conversation? You're already working. It's really not like that. I will also take the opportunity to say that there is no shame if in the meanwhile that 6 months, 8 months period you're describing yourself, Emmanuel, if someone takes a job that is not a UX job. I had transitions, for instance, my transition moving to Spain over 10, 11 years ago, I did babysitting work. I did a lot of translation work. I did a lot of community building work, HR work. I also worked as like a customer service, success agent, that sort of thing. I was paying the rent. I was building my network. I was really exploring where in Spain I can work with the sort of research UX skills that I had. It's okay, is what I'm trying to say. Because sometimes when I have similar conversations with clients or meetup events, people are like, yeah, good, but I need to pay the rent. Okay. But one thing is to meet your immediate needs, like your mortgage, or, I have kids, so I have to pay their school fees. The other thing is like, okay, is this my dream job? Is this like your conversations with your kids, the right click, the right organizational values? Sometimes those two immediately might not merge, but it's okay. There's no shame in temporarily separating them too.
Yeah, now it's very interesting what you are saying, and I think that will help the listener to be a bit less worried and
Yeah.
to see this is normal.
Normal.
It is normal. Yeah, absolutely. I'm just concerned a bit about the time, so I wanted to ask you a last question because you recently launched your
Oh,
own
yeah.
podcast, and I really want you to talk about it. So, what is your podcast about, and why did you decide to do it? And tell us all about it.
Thank you. So exciting. So I had started and executing on this podcast project in December 2025. And it was upon analyzing all the work that I've done through career with Mel and beforehand with my clients to see what helped, what didn't, what kind of interaction was fruitful to them. I call it, this is not a podcast, very intentionally, although, of course, it's playing around with words. Of course, it's a podcast, but it's not a podcast, Emmanuel, in that it's not like a conversation that you and I are having now, and a third party listener will hop in and they're going to listen. They're going to tune into our conversation. It's not like that. It's really me sending a voice message the same way I could do it on a WhatsApp, on Telegram, on any other channel. And I'm talking directly with and to the audience. I'm a friend, I'm a colleague, I'm a peer. It's very direct. It's only 10 minutes. I made that distinction so that when you are washing the dishes, commuting, or doing something really quick, like handling your laundry, you can listen. I wanted to make the structure also very clear because this was the gap I needed. Like, for instance, our conversation is so much fun, and I do trust there's a lot that people can learn, but do they have really time for it? Remember, we have Lenny's podcast, we have Nielsen and Norman's podcast. There is, World News, bunch of podcasts, like massive field. It's an amazing, lucrative field, the podcast world. So I was like, okay, I want to keep it 10 minutes. It's a direct conversation we're having, so I'm not broadcasting. It's a very intimate, so to say, conversation. And the structure is so clear in that I'm starting off from a moment, a key pain point I'm detecting. So far, I recorded 2. One is about confidence. It's about the layoffs and reorgs and how to position yourself accordingly. So there's like pain point. And then underneath that, the patterns I'm seeing, the market, massive amounts of like number of people I work with, the books, everything that I'm seeing. And then I'm leaving people with one experiment they can try. So there's this actionable part of it. Mm-hmm. There is this like structural part of it. So it's not about this one anecdote or not about one conversation. And it's this, ideally, of course, that's the intent, about something that UX world, knowledge workers at large for sure, but especially UX world will find important and urgent. It is a great experiment. I have the links of it on my website, on my LinkedIn, whatnot, and like super, super exciting for me to, of course, get feedback from our community and evolve with times.
So we will put all the details of it on the notes of the podcast, and we will put all the information about Mel into the podcast. But Mel, I wanted to thank you so much for joining me today to the UX Research Club. It's always very nice to speak with people who are not, doing the work like researchers or designer, but also the coaches. Last year I had Javier. I did a session with him. You also have very different approaches, and it's fascinating to have conversation with you. And I think it's very nice for the audience, to start questioning themselves about their career, what they want to do, how they want to plan their career, and if they need any coaching session, they can reach out to you.
Of course, absolutely. Or not. I love to just like hear from the community. I have people that say, hey, I listened to you 5 months ago, or I've seen your post, whatever, many years ago. And it's always good to know what resonated with people and why that mattered. It is a very personal thing we're doing, because of course it's a business, you make a living off of it, but it's also very personal that you touch people's lives. And thank you so much for the opportunity, Emmanuel, to talk deeply, your thoughtful questions. It was so much fun to be here. Thank you so much. So for the listener of the UX Research Club, thank you so much for listening today. And don't forget to put some stars on when you listen if you like the podcast. And we will see you next month for a new episode. Have a great end of the day. Bye-bye.